The topic that we're going to cover right now is, I think, pretty fundamental, and it came up in the keynote presentation this morning, or keynote panel this morning, about striking the balance between human assistance and obviously with intelligent assistance. So this is a very thorny issue, but also very important, and I think it's evolving as we see it today. So I want to go ahead and have each of the panelists go ahead and introduce themselves, and then say a little bit about themselves and the topic. So actually, we'll go ahead and go down the line. So Jordi, go ahead.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Jordi Torras. I'm the founder and CEO of Inbenta, a company specialized in chatbot artificial intelligence, so that's not news here. The difference is we've been working with hybrid chats, so combining artificial intelligence and exclusive machine with actual humans that can take over conversations. I'm from Barcelona, where all of us speak like that. I hope you understand me. And we are now based here in the U.S. and I'm happy to be here sharing that with you.
I'm from Venezuela. Hi,
it's cozy.
Eli Campo, I'm the CEO at nanorep. Prior to that, 7 years as an officer and life person, so I bring the human-assisted perspective as well as the technology-assisted perspective. Nanorep is basically an automated support solution that gives you the ability to deliver a personalized experience, and by personalized experience I mean same question, different people, different answers. So not necessarily all the times give the same answer. And we supporting companies like Toys R Us, Intuit, FedEx, OfferUp in the States, Vodafone, Thomas Cook, and Zalando in Europe.
Hi, I'm Jay Wilpon. I spent 40-something years at AT&T in speech and language technology before there actually was speech and language technology. And last year, our team got acquired by Interactions, and now we all work for Interactions, where it's a great focus because it's really a combination of machine intelligence and human intelligence, where the focus is to make the conversation be first, the user experience to be first, and apply technology sort of as a low-hanging fruit as technology gets better and better, but make sure that the performance at the user level is always perfect. And so we use sort of human intelligence sort of two different ways. There's human intelligence to augment the frailties of speech and language technology that a lot of us work on. And then there's using human assistance to actually deal with the back-end content. And we sort of look at both of those.
And I'm Robert Weideman. I'm the Executive Vice President and General Manager for Nuance Enterprise. Nuance is a world-leading vendor in speech, natural language, virtual assistant technologies. We are a $2 billion publicly traded company. About 5 billion consumer virtual assistant interactions are done each quarter on our platform. About 14 billion a year in the contact center space, separate from the consumer space. We distinguish ourselves, number one, by being the largest vendor in this space. We have about 6,500 customers, enterprise customers worldwide. We distinguish ourselves by having a true multi-channel capability, so we can apply the technology in inbound IVR, full outbound capabilities that are connected, web, mobile, messaging and chatbot, so you can implement Nina and access through Facebook Messenger, WeChat, two-way SMS, and as I mentioned earlier, we have Alexa integration as well, and used by, and on the virtual assistant side, used by the largest brands in the world, including FedEx, USAA, ING Bank, Tangerine Bank, a bunch of players that don't brand it Nina, but their customer-facing virtual assistant is based on our technology.
Great, thank you. And the list keeps growing. It's a long one. So I want to talk about the human side of this to start out in this balancing. When there's roles that we talk about agents and agent support, but there's also the conversational linguists, speech scientists, those who actually are help interpreting the dialogues that's coming in to help deliver a better experience. More and more that's becoming automated, and the linguistic computational nature of that is getting better. Will the role of speech scientists change as, and I'm starting to start this with you, Jordi, and feel free to comment down the line, but will the conversation still require human intervention to navigate those conversations?
Well, that's a good question. There are so many roles involved in any chatbot implementation, and the most important one is our customer, which basically will be in charge of creating a knowledge base, which is all the potential answers that an actual chatbot can provide. Without that information, there is no chatbot, and all of them are useless. So the first human to honor here is what we call the knowledge manager. Then what we see is basically a couple of tendencies, companies that will be using very linguistic computational approach, where computational linguists will be creating models for processing natural language. And there is another trend which would use pure machine learning in order to implement chatbots. So we see these two different approaches. I believe that probably what is going to happen is hybrids of these models will actually go out and be the winning strategy. We could have like a machine learning to compute and learn how to multiply, but we're going to use a calculator to do that. So language is in many ways a very formal thing. Human language has been evolving over time. Any human brain has more neural connections that stars in our galaxy, and there is no machine learning today able to imitate that. And the formalism that computational linguists can bring into the table in order to make sure that our chatbots are relevant and have really the right answer in most of the cases is absolutely necessary. So that's what our position is here.
Right, and I guess I'd kind of take that one step further in terms of as the conversations become better and there's more chatbot conversations. Can you still scale with that business in terms of having human intervention as there's more and more conversation? So is scaling an issue when it comes to that particular business model?
Absolutely. We have to admit that humans will be always necessary to solve problems that by nature might become complicated. So we're talking about customer support here. Right. We're talking about real people talking to real companies having real problems. And you want these problems to be solved. The game here is about percentages. So if we are able to solve 90, 95, 99% of problems using chatbots, that's going to, and efficiently and without actually causing any trauma in the clients, that's going to be the gate to basically being able to offer a better human-to-human personalized service, right, where call centers will feel less under pressure of having to deal with all these conversations because chatbots will efficiently take care of that. So yes, I believe that the hybrid method will eventually take over with very specialized human intervention.
Right. Let me add to that. A chatbot is no different than an IVR without a speech recognizer. Once you've converted the speech to text, then you still got to do something. You still got to fulfill it. You got to look at the content management. You got to automate stuff. All the problems that exist, we could have said, why isn't IVR systems or speech systems totally proliferated the world? There's over $500 million spent on agents worldwide today. The part that's being automated by speech and language and IVRs and other technology is a small fraction of that. Clearly, humans have a lot more intelligence than our machines do. So I think the buzzword of bots, sort of took off more. Siri did their thing and Facebook put up their thing. But at the end of the day, I don't necessarily want to see the AI winter that happened in the 80s and 90s after AI promised a lot of solving world hunger in the 70s. AI technologies, the things we're talking about, natural language understanding, speech, can do a huge amount. We first deployed stuff in the 90s. It had 5 words. It was collect call, calling card, third number person, a person operator. Remember when you used to make collect calls? And that saved $3 billion. But today, all we do is more vocabulary and we do more things. But talk about complex things. We're always going to need that stuff. The bots aren't going to, bots don't solve world hunger. All of the problems exist in the content management, knowledge databases, searching, unstructured analytics. Everything is unstructured. We're talking about structured, unstructured. Text is, you got to deal with at least the output of speech recognizer are words with spaces in between. They're actually real words. Now you talk about text, which are misspellings and emoticons, and you have no idea what people are doing. They cut and paste information that they've seen someplace in there. It's not a conversation. The things that go on between the digital world, the text world, social media, whatever, are very different. I think there's a lot to be done. There's a lot to do. The technology works really well, and there's a lot can do. But let's not think. So your thing is that the role of the science has changed, or the role of the technology changed. It doesn't. I think it ups the ante because there's even more things that we have to solve.
I have a slightly...
So we see it a bit differently. We start with what the customer's trying to do. They want to engage with their customers in a way that delivers high levels of customer satisfaction and experience, and at the same time allows them to get operational efficiencies, either through cost savings or increased revenue through automation. And what we've seen in the marketplace is that oftentimes vendors talk about answering that problem based on the part of the market that they're playing in. And the market has progressed significantly. I've been with Nuance and ScanSoft Nuance since 2001. It used to be speech didn't work early on. Now speech works pretty well. You guys can judge that by what you see in Siri and Samsung. But the model now isn't about using human assistance to correct speech recognition or to make the system better. Those technologies are getting better. And if you have speech recognition that works well, you don't need to do that. It's really about engaging with the person across the customer journey. So for example, what you want to be able to do is have systems that can use AI, prediction engines, to be able to anticipate what a customer wants, sends them an outbound message. Offers through a click on that SMS message to engage in a conversation. The company can decide whether that's a virtual conversation or a live conversation. If it's a virtual conversation and you want it to move into and escalate to a human conversation, you want to use all the agents you already have. Many of us call them live chat agents, and engage in a live chat conversation through that channel. And so more and more what you're seeing is that the blending of the ability to have outbound communications be proactive, to be able to have the consumer decide, do they want to make a phone call, do they want to do a chat, do they want to engage in an automated way or through a live way, and do that with all the workforce you already have and the investments that you're already making. And then progressively, depending on the task that you're trying to do with that engagement, have that better. And in that result, it does scale because you're not bringing in speech scientists into the contact center. You're actually using your agents. It also scales in the sense that artificial intelligence and humans cooperate. They become teammates. And so you're actually making the agent more effective and efficient. And so in our deployments, we see things like first contact resolution on a website going from 0 to 85%. And since 67% of IVR calls come from people failing on a website, that's a significant advantage and deflection for the customer. But if we can't, after 85%, if we can now engage a human to either seamlessly get involved through live chat or explicitly get involved, I'm going to escalate you to Robert, you're going to talk to Robert now, then you have a better opportunity of actually getting a shorter engagement with the human, because the agent can handle most of the task, and then the engagement, the average handling time that happens after that is much shorter. So I think the more that this becomes omni-channel, the more that the capabilities become more pervasive across those channels, then I think you're going to see the overall result of better customer experience and cost savings and revenue increase actually being delivered in these solutions.
Go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, but I think this is, you're touching more, you know, how...
Let's get a little closer to the mic.
Sorry. I think that touches more about what could be a blended, engagement strategy. But I want to touch to your question about what's the role of the human in Optima, in scaling a virtual assistant technology. Mm-hmm. I think the way to look at it, there's two approaches. One approach that's fixing in creating the content, and the other approach which is focused on designing the conversation. I think those technologies that are focus on designing the conversation will not scale, because the level of complexity in trying to figure out all the conversations, you just won't, at some point you stop. And the technologies that can focus on making sure the organization is focused on creating the right content and they can drive from that the conversation, those technologies can scale to a different level.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. And I want to open up to questions here because we're going to be finishing up in the next 10 minutes or so keep those in mind. I want to quickly challenge, though, on Robert, on what you said in terms of the accuracy of speech recognition, in terms of how it is certainly has become more effective over the years, and the idea of human-assisted does improve the accuracy of that particular conversation. We heard in the last session, how Alexa doesn't understand context. It needs machine learning. It's a very linear conversation. So, does an accurate conversation, either through live chat or through an IVR or whatever, improves the customer experience? Is accuracy an issue still? And does that limit the number of use cases or verticals, or if it's just a conversation about versus a marketing conversation versus a sale or something like that?
Yep.
And then how is that changing?
Well, and we've lived through this. We were very early in speech recognition, and when you're dealing with speech recognition, it's easy to measure accuracy, right? Because you can marry it with word error rate. So if you say cat, hat, bat, you either get the word right or wrong. You can measure that. When you're getting to the virtual assistant space, and the challenge for a lot of enterprises, a lot of you out there, is how do you measure the intelligence of a virtual assistant? You mentioned Alexa doesn't retain context and be able to hold a conversation with people. I don't know if that's true. Many do, including us, and so you can actually have a very human-like engagement. Facebook doesn't, for sure. When the chatbot first came out, somebody wrote a temperature weather bot and said, what's the temperature in Miami? 85. What about Beijing? I don't understand what you're saying, right? And you should be able. The system has to be able to understand that context. So it's gotten more challenging now to be able to detect whether the solution that you're assessing is going to be able to deliver on the level. And then that comes to very simple things if I was an enterprise out there. Reference accounts, metrics on success in those accounts, and whether or not it's delivering, Net Promoter Score. And if you find vendors that deliver a solution that engage, allow for human and virtual conversations, and deliver on the KPIs that they have, cost savings, increase in Net Promoter Scores, then you're going to end up on a good path. And as these technologies progress, it's going to get better.
Yeah, I think what we sort of focus on interactions is the human shouldn't care whether it's technology handling it or the humans. The technology is always going to get better. You're going to go from 5 words to 1,000 words to pretty much infinite vocabulary. And then you start moving to natural language understanding. And most of the time, people are throwing around the word natural language. They really mean understanding or classification of what the user is talking about. But when you start getting into very complex conversations, troubleshooting, looking for information other than, what's the capital of New York, you've got to decompose the conversation, rich natural language processing, understanding the references. I want to go to the White House. How do I get there? What does there respond to? I just bought a TV. The bazimba in the back doesn't work. I don't know where it's going to be. You have to be able to take language which isn't even really structured to be able to do that. Technology is going to advance. We're all here are going to advance the technologies. What we try to do is don't let the customer get short-sighted or short-chained by performance. Let them do the things they want. Use the human in the background, not necessarily in the content management, but in the user experience to augment the technology. As the technology is improving, float all boats. More things get automated, costs go down. You automate more things, costs go down. You automate more things, and that cycle goes up. It sort of inverts the equation. The equation that sort of the Nuances and SpeechWorks and even AT&T's and whatever it did is technology for technology's sake. Put out the technology, automate it, and whatever the customer experience is, You try to invert the equation, focus on the customer experience, and then use the technology as you will to augment and automate the things that it can do and then improve the technology and float all boats. So there's always going to be these roles. Accuracy is always going to be important. But I think at the point where I sort of agree with him is that the speech recognition is pretty damn accurate at this point without any context. Now you have to move up the food chain. You got to move to natural language understanding. You got to move to dialogue. I would argue we can't even, someone said before we're going to need the role of humans and things. Try doing date, just recognize the date of somebody typing it or saying. The best in the world of how people are going to recognize a date is not very good, whereas you and I can recognize that quite well. Forget other things. We're going to advance the technology, but I think the idea that we're trying to do is, at least from our side, is make sure the customer experience is excellent. They're getting an effortless thing to get their stuff done. And ultimately, all of us will play a bigger role on how this generates and saves money for the enterprise.
Right.
Yeah, I'd echo what Jay said. You have to focus on the experience. And in this conversation of talking about kind of when do humans get involved, there's for sure an element of it, particularly as you move up to dialogue and NLU, that we're at a point where you do need to get humans involved in some cases. But don't forget, you want to get humans involved because it enhances the experience. So sometimes it's not about is the agent accurate, is the virtual assistant accurate. It is, a good example is USAA. We have a well-performing, very high-performing system there across IVR and VA on mobile and web. They had a need that says, you know what, we want to get close to our members. And what we want to do is, as the system is noticing things like the member calling in saying, I want to increase my life insurance. I want to add life insurance. And the conversation turns to, oh, I just had, I had a baby. That then the system knows, you know what, we want to propose not only life insurance, but we also want to propose a college fund, right? And that, as a matter of fact, we either propose that through the virtual assistant or through a human, because we know that that's going to be a better outcome, whichever those are. And what's helping us a lot is lots of data. I mentioned 14 billion data points coming in a year, many of them, for each individual customer, but in the financial banking sector and the insurance sector. And that is what's going to drive accuracy there. But the switch to live assist comes not only from accuracy, but to a great extent on what is the best experience that you're going to be able to give to that customer at that point in time.
Right. Question out here?
Yeah, I had a question. I just want to go back to what Jay said, just as a caveat about the lessons, try to learn some lessons from what happened in the speech industry, having seen that, and starting in, what was it, 1993, this is going to be the year of speech. And, every year it was that was the mantra at different conferences and trade shows.
We tried.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was, and it was
succeeded too.
And the question that I had is, what can we do? I mean, it's about to get really crazy here with the hype, right? I mean, with the whole bots, and I think Joe mentioned it, where he thought the tipping point from a budget standpoint might be in 2018. What kind of recommendations can you provide to the folks that are in the audience on the customer side and the industry as a whole, so that we don't we don't go through that kind of craziness? I mean, you mentioned looking for references, right, and ask about references and have proof points, which is a common thing. But what can we do so that we don't have that same scenario on the speech side and we have these false starts?
One challenge I think exists in the enterprise, most of the things we talked about today, in other sense, were more from the consumer side, Siri, Echo. These are all consumer things. Enterprises have their own world. The products change, the context change, the intents change. It changes today. I can't tell you the number of times I have apps deployed, and tomorrow the customer comes back, no, I want to do it this way. Or one particular intent has to break into 5 different intents. Enterprises have very interesting needs, and those don't, the science isn't there yet. I mean, it's getting there, but it's not there. And so I think with the move to more tools to let people do their own thing, there's a lot of machine learning tools, a lot of NL tools. I don't think enterprises are going to get stuck. I think things are getting more complicated. I mean, even 10 years ago it was hard enough to get an enterprise to write an application for a directed dialogue VXML grammar. Now think about having enterprises write complex application with large statistical language models, millions of words of vocabulary that are changing every day. And we do the customer care for a large phone company that isn't Samsung. And they just introduced a new product. Well, they don't tell you when they're introducing it, what's it going to be called, when it's going to be introduced, and yet the day it's introduced, our customer care has to work holy crap. So there's a lot of things that we try to build on our technology and tools to make that be as seamless as possible. And I think that's happening, but most of it happens a lot easier than it did 20 years ago. I think the types of things that we saw in the early days of speech recognition, a lot of the tools and stuff, whether it's Nuance, whether it's interactions, whether it's open source stuff in Caldi or anything else, they can do pretty well. But enterprises have their own particular challenges, let's say, and I don't see them going away. If you're dealing with the consumer side, you know, Amazon cares about Amazon, Apple cares about Siri and them, and Google cares about Google. The interconnect of those is the problem that the enterprise has to solve, and they have to focus on, don't get caught in, it's got to work in Facebook. Not everybody's going to contact USAA by Facebook. Not everybody is going to contact American Airlines through Siri. Not everybody's going to contact Best Buy through Nina. They're going to do it over every channel and every device. And I think the thing for everyone that's out here from the enterprise side is you've got to think of agnostic devices, agnostic OS, agnostic application development. You should be able to run it on a Samsung device, an Apple, Google TV, your Siri thing, and in your car. And challenge the market to provide those things to you.
Right, I think the omnichannel is certainly, that's...
Yeah, I do want to just comment a little bit on that, because there's places where we agree, but there's some differences.
I hope so.
So this technology is working today.
Yeah.
And it's working at very large enterprises. I mean, 100% of Wells Fargo IVR that's speech-enabled flows through Nuance, FedEx, Walt Disney, and others. And so you don't get to 14 billion automated interactions without the thing working. The virtual assistant space is exploding. I mean, the business is exploding. The adoption of it is exploding. FedEx has gone worldwide with Nina on their website. That's become a very significant business for us. So I do want people to come away with this is actually being proven, and if you look for references and you actually look for KPIs and get real data, you can get confidence, because it is hard to distinguish. On the multi-channel thing, completely agree. And right now, it's going to be incumbent on us, the vendors, to bring enterprises across the phone, web, mobile, Internet of Things, Facebook Messenger, in the car and in the television, where Nuance is a significant business. Because I don't think the other vendors, some of the vendors won't open their APIs to do it, and so it's going to be on us to make those investments to make that happen.
So it's different now, but in terms of the hyper...
Just one parameter that I think we left out of the mix, because I agree it's all about the user experience and the level of accuracy, but there's also how long or how much time it takes you to make a change, okay? Because your business is changing, okay, and as you implement virtual assistants, you know, and the business is evolving. If it takes you 6 months to make a change, that's a problem. And just to give you one example that illustrates, I think, one of the single use cases about combining, you know, human assistant and technology assistant. We had one of the largest telcos in Europe piloting nanorep at the launch of iPhone 6. And he had a lot of content on his website, and he has like 50 agents ready to sell. And when we get into the system, we see that the number one question by far is, do we have iPhone 6 available? And literally in 2.5 minutes in real time, we just pick the, you know, their chat provider was LivePerson in this case. We click it, and you basically, every time that was a shopping-based intent, the system automatically brings the human assistant into the conversation, and you see conversion go up significantly. Yeah. So time to market, time to change is also a key parameter when you evaluate your technology.
Well, and as the technology gets better, that gets shorter, right? So for the same exact phone company he's talking about, we implemented in 57 days the live chat implementation for that customer.
And it's also important to.
And I'm actually just going to give Jordi the final word here. No, go ahead. But I don't want to. Obviously, the conversation is going further, and we didn't even get to the idea of the role of agents and the innovation school that Sarah brought up this morning. Like there's and the resistance to change. So I think there's a lot of factors organizationally, politically, within companies to really include humans in all of this. The process of technology that are certainly working and changing the way that we all live. So apologize for ending here, but I definitely appreciate the panel, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.